Good morning, LAP. This is Brandon Reisinger coming to you with your chairman's report. Sorry we didn't get one to you last week. Just had a lot going on and didn't have time. Want to give you a quick update on some of the things going on around the plant. First off, I'll give you the order bank. Our order bank is 5,762 on the Corsair. It's 32,029 on the Escape for a total of 37,791. As you can see, our order bank is in pretty good shape, so something to keep in mind. I know there's been a lot of questions about our orders and is this vehicle going to sell, things like that. We're in good shape as far as that goes. We had our issues, which I've covered before, that caused our down weeks back around Christmas, trying to get everything rolling. The company's trying to actually launch this one right the first time. We're used to build them, stack them all over town, and we'll go back and fix them later. And that's the approach that we're used to. So when we don't go that route, it causes a little bit of panic, right? There's no need to panic here. We are in good shape. They got everything fixed with that issue. Last week we had a visitor come in town from Dearborn that is part of our launch team, and they had some questions as far as what issues we were seeing, if we had anything repetitive, anything causing large problems. And they actually spoke with our launch team and spoke with some of the team leaders on the floor out in trim and chassis. And one of the reoccurring issues that they saw over and over was with the coax cables. So the coax cable, most of you all aren't going to know what that is. If you think of at home the cable that screws into the wall for your cable TV, you know, your coax, it's a round cable. It's got like a hard copper wire in the middle of it, and then it's sheeted, and it's got another braided wire on the outside, and it's got a connector that connects the inside and connects the outside of it. We've got a much smaller version of that that's going into our vehicles in a lot of different places. You know, back in the day, we just had regular wires that ran to everything, and it sent a voltage signal and said it's on or it's off, or read a variable voltage, and that was kind of what the wiring did. These coaxes are being used in places where there's actually data that needs to be transferred rather than just a signal. So your front camera, your rear camera, your 360 cameras, the satellite antenna, there's a couple of different things that are using these wires, and we were having some issues with the connectors. So the copper wire inside of that it's very thin, and we were getting ones where they were bent, they weren't a little off center, and when that happens, when you go to plug them in, instead of it going into its connector like it's supposed to, it just bends over worse. Now, we weren't shipping any trucks out like that. They were all being caught and they were all being fixed, but it's a difficult fix. A lot of times it involved pulling several trim panels off to replace that cable. So the call was made to shut it down on Thursday evening, probably an hour into the shift, and they said we're going to figure out what we've got going on and what we've got to do to maintain this and not let it become a larger problem. So they spent Thursday night and Friday figuring out what the plan was going to be. Over the weekend, they came up with some things to put in place. We've got several extra temporary inspectors in place now that are going to be checking these wires throughout the system, making sure that they're not damaged, making sure that the copper leads aren't bent over. They've come up with a better repair process in cooperation with the vendor, so we're getting some stuff to be able to repair those ends instead of having to replace the whole cable. So there's a few things they wanted to get in place, and they did that. We came in Monday and fired back up, and hopefully that issue will be something that is gone now. You know, that wasn't a decision that was made just half-heartedly. They weighed the options. They said this is what we need to do to get it fixed, and that's what they went with. The units that we've built so far are not bad. When we're looking at our FTT and our quality as far as early launch units, they're extremely good actually. Our guys are doing a great job putting these trucks together, And our inspectors and repair are doing a great job of their roles as well, as far as fixing and catching anything that isn't the way it's supposed to be. We are in our normal launch acceleration now. So I know you guys are seeing, yesterday we went, 5.5 hours? That was part of the plan all along. So yesterday our number was 365 per shift. Today it's went up to 388. Tomorrow it's going to go up probably to the low 400s, and it's going to do that for the next couple of weeks until we get up to our normal scheduled production. That's assuming our parts vendors can keep up, right? So a couple of things we got that we're working on. The company, we got them to start putting out our daily number. We're going to move one step further than that. They're going to start using the monitors throughout the plant, and they're working on a screen to put up, and it's going to have our daily number on it, but it's also going to have a couple of our measurables that were compared to the other plants by, when they rank the plants from best to worst. So when they put it up, it'll have the number up at the top, what we've got to run for each shift. And then you're also going to see on there, they're going to have our FTT, which is our first time through. That's a measure of how many units went through without any issues and didn't need any repairs or any extra work on them before they could be sent. You'll see our JPH on there, jobs per hour, and that's always done as a measure of our reported number versus our actual number. And it won't be on there hour by hour. It's going to be looked at as an entire day, so an average. And then we'll also see our attendance on there. So they'll be given the percentage of our attendance that we had for the prior week. Just to get a little more information out and let everybody know where we stand on stuff, right? Wanted to hit on the International Election Board runoff election. That is actually happening now. Those ballots have been mailed out. They mailed them on January 12th. Everybody should have received one by now. If you have not received your international election runoff ballot yet, you can either get a new one by calling in on the phone or by doing it online. I would recommend online because of the people I've talked to, there's been better results with using the online request. I don't know if the phone workers just aren't putting everything in the way they're supposed to, but the electronic process seems to be working better. If you go to uawvote.com, there's a button on there to request a replacement ballot, and that's the way you're going to go about doing that. The deadline to return the ballots is February 28th, so if you haven't received a ballot, I would probably go ahead and make that request sooner rather than later. We need to get all of those back in. As of, Thursday, because it runs a little bit behind. From what they've got on the website, as of Thursday, we were a little bit below 3,000 people out of our 20,000 members at 862 that had returned their ballots. And that's kind of disappointing, guys. I've said it, and I'm going to say it one more time. It arrives in an envelope, you open it up, you fill in 2 circles for who you want for each position. You slide it back in the sleeve, put it in the return envelope, and stick it in your mailbox. It takes 30 seconds. So please take the time to return your ballots. This election is extremely important. Here locally, we've got our polls open up for local elections on February 2nd at 5 a.m. and they will be closing on the 4th at 7 p.m. This election is for the members of our election committee, the recreation committee chair, and our National Ford delegates. So you'll be able to swing by the hall, polls will be open. This is a normal swing in and vote type of setup. Our February union meeting is at the LAP hall. That's going to be on Tuesday the 14th, 1 p.m. and 6 p.m. Look forward to seeing you at one of those. We've got the deadline for local contract proposals is March 24th. I know we've had several people turn in proposals already. You can get those proposal forms in the local union office inside the plant, or you can ask your committeeman and they can get one for you. Our local contract negotiations are coming up pretty soon. So if there's something that you'd like to see changed or something new that you'd like to see in the local, by all means, please get one submitted, but you've got till the 24th to do that. I do want to tell everybody, keep in mind, there's a difference between our national contract and our local contract. So when you make a proposal, make sure you're making one for the right thing. National contract is what's going to deal with things like wages, vacation pay, personal pay, benefits, profit sharing, retirements or 401ks, our TFT language, which nobody's happy with, of course, cost of living allowances, any of that stuff is going to be in the national contract. Our local contract is going to deal with issues at the plant. It's going to deal with things like the process for requesting time off, how bids are handled, the guidelines for our break schedules, when an early break can be called, when an early break can't be called, limitations on how many times they can do that. It's going to deal with overtime scheduling. It's going to deal with facility improvements. It'll deal with our heat relief language. Anything that's specific to the plant is going to be local proposal. So if you've got stuff that you'd like to see in there, please, by all means, get one of those in. Only other thing wanted to let everybody know, profit sharing should be coming the second week of March. We do not have the formula for that yet. And honestly, the last few years, probably 4 years or so, that formula has been coming out like right before we got our checks. So I know a lot of people like to ask, hey, what's the formula, so they can try and figure out what they're going to make. We don't have that. But I did want to let you know when those checks will be coming. Those are going to be based on your hours worked. When they put a number out, it's an average system-wide. And keep in mind, we've got a lot of maintenance people throughout the system and all the different plants, and we've got some of our parts plants that work 6 and 7 days a week. So the average is probably not based on the average person in any of our production plants this year, because everybody has had downtime, been going short because of parts. But we should be somewhat close to whatever the average is that they put out. If you converted to full-time from TFT last year, which we had a lot of people that converted in June, any hours that you worked from the conversion going forward will count as compensated hours used for the calculation for profit sharing. So you'll get a profit sharing based off of any of those hours that you worked once you became full-time. That's all I've got this week. Look forward to seeing you next week. Everybody